Hey, what's going on everyone? This is JoeYoursTruly back with another video, and today we're going to be doing the tier list for version 0.8. And just as a quick shout out, this tier list template has been made by Cygo, and I gotta say I really like this new template. Before the tier list I've been using was kind of like using like the profile icons, but this is using like the new like wallpaper kind of profile avatars you guys see on the new loading screen. So I'm a very big fan of using this kind of template. So nice job, Psycho. I really love how you do this one. So we're gonna be using his template and whatnot. And one other quick thing to note as well is that this is just my opinion. At the end of the day, I do have some bias here and there, but I try my best to give you guys my best unbiased take on what's going to be some of the best heroes, what heroes are kind of struggling and whatnot, what's just overall what's really good in this patch 0.8 for like a solo keyword kind of person. So just we're going to be tackling some things that's of note, and one of them is definitely the Greystone, as he's the new hero on this patch. And like I say, he's actually a tier 2 hero in my opinion. So at tier 2 is kind of like, I consider them to be like the above average kind of heroes. Tier 1 is obviously like undoubtedly like the strongest heroes kind of thing, right? I don't think Greystone is quite that T1 character where he's the one of the strongest offlaners in the game, because I do consider the Sevarog and the Steel to still be kind of like the kings in the offlane, just being very good tanks, just being able to have really good laning phases, but also have incredible impact in the team fights, right? And the thing with Greystone that's really interesting is he's all in the same category as the Crunch and the Grux, where they're like good fighters that can really excel in the 1v1. The big thing about Greystone in particular though is that he's someone that actually excels a lot more in those team fights compared to the Crunch and Grux. So that's kind of like the big thing you have to kind of sit down and ask yourself about where you're going to put Greystone. Because I can see some arguments for Greystone being T1 because he is a very excellent fighter. He has a very good early laning phase, and although his damage does fall off as the game goes on, he's a lot more durable as the game goes on with the IMG build on him, and he's just really hard to take down in team fights if you know how to push him to his limits correctly. Because there's counter player, you can silence, you can CC him down so he can't use his ultimate, but a good Greystone player will recognize that and be able to play around that using the ultimate earlier, or just knowing like what to expect when things are getting thrown at him, right? So it's just hard for me. I don't, maybe I'm kind of underselling him just a little bit, me playing on this little bit safer side. I think he's tier 2 without a doubt, but like I said, I think you can see some consideration for tier 1. I just really want this meta to kind of play out a little bit longer. So like probably the next time we do another tier list will be like 0.9, and I think by then we have a much better idea, because you see Greystone, there's a lot of different builds you can go on him. I see assassin builds, you see my Greystone build, you see my jungle build, and then like Sprucer builds, tank builds. There's a lot of different builds you go on him, and it worked really good. So I think I'm gonna put him tier 2 for now, but just know that you can make an argument for tier 1 if you want to go that route. But the other thing to know is we can talk a little bit about the tanks. Like, even though like the durability changes we gotten that kind of push a little bit other heroes a little bit better, because like the big thing that reason why tanks have been kind of really strong for the most part is because before, with the low durability, it was easy for tanks to be very tanky but still do a lot of damage to the low durability stats. But ever since then, they buffed the base stats and growth and physical armor growth and all that defensive stuff, so the tanks technically won't hit you as hard. But I still think the Steel and Sevarog are still two very strong offlaners. Sevarog obviously just being able to like outskill anyone in the game, and then Steel just being able to be a really good early lane kind of bully, and he's very good into a lot of matchups. And some matchups he does kind of fall off where he can't do the 1v1, but the whole point of playing the Steel is just to have that exceptional team fighting that's almost unmatched in the offlane roster. And the interesting thing about Sevarog is he's technically can be a good jungler with the jungler changes they've done to him. So it just makes Sevarog even better in that regard. So now he's not going to be a terror in the offlane. He's also going to be a good flex in the jungle to kind of like scale and just be that messy kind of jungler you have to keep your eye out for. Other things to note that I want to bring out is that Muriel that I kind of put tier 2 last time is actually going to be a tier 1 pick, and that's because of what I just said with the durability changes, people being more durable in general. That makes Muriel actually indirectly buff her a lot, because the big value of Muriel is keeping her allies alive with their shields. So when you have people living longer in this like meta and all these changes, you're gonna see Muriel actually being able to impact team fights a lot more, being able to keep people alive even longer. And I have faced and play Muriel, and her mid to late game shields are actually kind of ridiculous. There's a lot of times where it was actually hard to kill someone in particular because the Muriel will pocket them really hard, and just it makes like even the squishies like ADC, it's really hard to kill if you have a Muriel that's keeping an eye on them. So just the fact that she's able to do that so consistently well, from my experience, makes her without a doubt a very, very strong support here. Probably one of the best supports in the game. The only one that can be contestant to her is Decker, but that's because Decker's always been a staple support, just being very elusive, having a lot of CC, good damage, have everything you want in the support. So these two are definitely, in my opinion, one of the best supports in the game right now. Another quick thing we're gonna note is we're gonna quickly talk about like tier 4 heroes. So if tier 3 is kind of like the average Joe kind of hero, tier 4 is kind of like you have to work a bit harder to actually make them feel good compared like to the tier 3, tier 2 kind of picks, right? So a little underperforming in just my opinion, and that's gonna be the Grux, that's gonna be the Kallari, and then that's gonna be the Sparrow. And the reason why I put these three in here is because I like, let's talk about one at a time. So for Grux, I kind of have the same issue in the last tier list I did, where it's not so much like the items on him are not bad. Like if anything, Grux should be performing better because of the changes they did, especially to like Forehelm, the durability changes. But I still find Grux to be a little lacking in terms of like, and when you go against high elo players, they know exactly how to fight him on the Grux, and it can be really hard to do what you want on him. Like I in the offlane fighting, one of my easiest matchups, like I like to go against is the Grux, because I know how to have complete control over this opposing opponent. Like imagine the Steel, you can never kill the Steel as Grux and gets a good player. Like even though he's good into Sevarog, like he's really good like in the 1v1. Sevarog has like 3 abilities that he can just run away from Grux, and Grux just cannot catch up at all. So just because of stuff like that, I consider him to be a T4 hero. I mean, in lower elos, he's definitely higher up there, but as you face more and more experienced players, it's going to become even harder to do what you want, because Grux is just so easy to shut down, and it's kind of hard to play in those team fights, especially in the really heavy CC kind of team fights. So definitely Blood Mordius, a senior gameplay design, did tease that Grux is one of those heroes that's going to get reworked at some point later down the line, and I definitely agree with that, because Grux is sort of that champion where he's either really strong in low elos, but then he falls off really hard in high elos. That's just not like a healthy champion design, so definitely he needs a rework, and I imagine that I really want to see like his old dash back. I kind of want to see Grux being more like an actual, even close to a tank, just being like a very hard kind of person to kill, like a lot less damage obviously, but someone that can be more like a primary engager for the teammates, because that's what Paragon Grux was. He was kind of like that team engager with his dash and pull, so I kind of want to see that kind of return. So, and then I think that's going to make Grux a very fun hero to play with that new kind of kit if they go along with that well. Next up, we're going to talk about Kallari. I think the Kallari is just kind of like a classic pump stopping hero. So very similar to Grux, where she's going to run down low elo players that doesn't know how to play around vision, and just not being able to how to play safe against a Kallari jungle. So when you face against more and more experienced players, she definitely falls off. And in those team fights, it can be really hard to get a pick on, because Kallari, the whole thing about Kallari is that you play her to get kind of picks in team fights, trying to get isolated targets, but it gets very well coordinated players as you go up that high elo bracket. It can be very hard to find the angle, especially when you play Kallari, you're not playing her the front line at all. A lot of other junglers, the Rampage, the Grux, the Crunch, they can kind of front line a little bit, and your team can play around that, but you're very reliant on your team to kind of front line or position well as a Kallari to find an opening. So I just kind of find Kallari to be not as high of a consistent hero as I like her to be, so that's why she's in tier 4. And lastly, we're gonna talk about Sparrow. And so this is a weird thing. Like, I really think Sparrow is actually not bad at all. Like, I think a Sparrow plus a phase is actually a very strong and disgusting combo when played right. But that's the thing, if it is played right, and when you're in the solo queue environment, it can be really hard to consistently find a good support, right? Because like I have a lot of times where I try to play ADC and my support is like hit or miss, and that can really make your laning phase hard. That's why certain heroes like the jungle and the Mo that's always been very consistent good as ACs, because a good self-sufficient ACs being able to like have self-heal for themselves, having just a good kit to kind of kite people off or kind of shut down even certain heroes, because like the jungle gas grenade and mode, like just being able to be really hard to catch for certain heroes, right? But Sparrow doesn't have any of that, so she is very reliant on her support and reliant on a team to play around her. And with things are at and solo queue and Predecessor, most of the time I don't really have that situation where I'm like, I feel like I'm in really good hands with this team. Not to kind of that's nothing anything against my teammates, that's just how the matchmaking works, right? So I imagine when we get to the point where we have the rank modes, when if you're like queuing diamond rank and you're in a lobby of all diamond players, and I think Sparrow would definitely be high up on the list, because you're gonna expect teammates that recognize that you keep the Sparrow alive, you win fights easy, right? It's just right now in solo queue Predator, so you're not gonna quite get that experience. So that's kind of why I'm putting her T4 for now. But she's definitely not one to sleep on, especially in tournaments where you have the very coordinated teams that can really enable her to shred through everyone, right? But that's about it for all the very notable picks, I think. So now we're just gonna quickly just run down through all the other heroes. So Countless tier 3, I really think she's actually not bad. Like, I think in the right hand, she's definitely above average hero. But especially in this more tankier meta, we have the Steel, the Sevarog, and a lot of CC heroes running around. And the fact that Countless actually one of the hardest early game characters to play, because it's just very like hard to farm safely, because she always loses those early matchups. Like, I know that from playing mid lane, especially often a lot myself. But if you can play her very, very well and very safe consistently, you can definitely really outscale your opponents and really kind of win over like the game, right? And it's also the fact that she has very good how do I say, very good looseness with her Q. Her Q is actually a very strong way to juke people and dodge abilities. You just need to know how to use that right. But for the most average player, I think she's gonna just be like a T3 hero. She's just one of those heroes that can be really good lower elos, but if you don't improve with her over time and you go into against higher elo players, then I think Counts will be a much harder pick to play. So Grux, she's a kind of staple T2 character. He's definitely like always been like super solid offlaner. He's just kind of like meant to like just excel in any 1v1s. So like he's actually a decent counter to the Greystone in my opinion. Like also Grux too for the most part. So like, but the Greystone has that early game kind of pressure, so it's not going to be like as one-sided, but definitely as the mid to late game goes on, the Crunch and Grux will actually really kind of outscale the Greystone. So if you're kind of having trouble laying against Greystone, then the Crunch and Grux picks should give you an upper edge, especially as the game goes on. Very Mountainous, staple T2 pick, solid in the off lane and very solid in the jungle as well. Probably one of the best assassins in the jungle, which really is just like the Feimao and Kallari for the most part. Feimao is just a lot more consistent kind of assassin in my opinion. Just being able to have that very good mobility and having that early game kind of damage. So he's definitely not bad at all in the jungle role, even when you go against more experienced players. And in the off lane, he's actually have a lot of favorable matchups that can actually really give them a run for their money. Gacha is going to be a T3 pick. You could make an argument for T2, but I kind of consider it to be like kind of like the balanced mid laner hero, quote unquote. You can never go wrong with a Gacha mid lane. I just think that some other mid lanes in the game are actually a bit more on the potent side, I would say. Like, I actually forgot there was one more hero that I want to make note of, and that is Morigesh, because Morigesh is actually going to be a T2 hero. So I kind of placed her in T3 here, before, but now she's actually tier 2 hero. And the reason why I'm making note of this is because I think she's a hero that's actually being slept on, like myself included. I slept on her a little bit, but recently we sort of have these tournaments like in the red robin groups at the PCC where Morigesh was actually being picked up a lot and was even banned a couple of times. And so it's really surprising to see a million that was slept on, like, because the Hauser and the game though, like, always the like very staple mid lanes are still very odd. You can never go wrong with the Hauser Gideon because of how well suited the kit is for the laning phase, both on team fights and just being able to have a very flexible kit in general. But Morigesh has been seen as wise, and I think the main reason is because she's like one of the best mages to actually go against tanks, because you look at a passive and you have a very low RB cooldown. Like, she's actually very good at whittling down tanks that like the Hauser and Gideon and all that mid-laners can't even match, because the best thing they can do is slow down the abilities here and there, but that's not enough to really bring down the tanks. What you need to bring down tanks is consistent damage. That's why ADCs will always have a place in the meta, because you need ADCs to keep the tanks in check, right? And so like the thing with Morigesh is she breaks that mold as a mid laner, where she's actually someone that can really whittle down tanks very, very well. So what we've been seeing in tournaments is that you have a very well coordinated team that can peel for the Morigesh. So like imagine like in those team fight, you normally peel for your carry, like make sure they stay safe and you frontline for them. But now imagine you do that for the AC and the Morigesh, and all of a sudden you have a very, very strong front to end. And what I mean by front to end, I mean like the front as in you being able to take down all the frontliners and then work way towards you the back, which is the squishies, the carries, the mid lanes, etc. And so that's what makes Morigesh been popping up recently. It's the fact that I think more people are starting to figure out her like unique strengths, and that is she's a very good mid lane to actually take down tanks. So imagine you're going against a Sevarog offlane, like a Steel jungle, virtual support, like whatever kind of thing, right? And so like your Morigesh is going to be one of the best mid lanes to actually be able to really shred through the tanks in combination with the ADC. Obviously, this takes a little bit more of a coordination, so obviously in tournaments it works out very consistently well, and solo kill can be sort of hit or miss. But I think as more and more people start to understand how to play Morigesh and how to space her out, I think she's starting to become a lot more popular pick in the mid lane, especially. And she's always been a popular pick in the lower ends of the elo, but I think now in the higher ends of the elo, she's starting to become more popular. And because of that, I have to put her in tier 2 and just kind of let you guys be well aware of exactly what's going on and why Morigesh has been doing a lot better recently, even though she hasn't really received any changes for the most part. But okay, on back to the rest of the list. Chimera, he's a staple jungler. He's not like super great, but he's not bad either. He's always going to be a great jungler. He's a really good counter matchup to some junglers. Like Chimera can really pressure like the Kallari, the Sevarog jungler pretty early. And in certain enemy team comps where there's not as much CC, the Chimera can really just run down people a lot more. So I think he's someone that you probably don't want to pick every single game. You can never go wrong with doing the Chimera kind of pick, but he definitely excels a lot more depending on your team comp and the enemy team comp. Next up is Kira. She's actually a T1 ADC, funny enough. So I kind of rated her before as a T2 kind of hero, but now she's been popping off a lot more recently. So she's definitely I think she's one of the best ADCs in the game right now, at least for like the solo kill environment. Like she has a lot of damage, and like I think the big thing is she kind of has everything you want on the ADC, where she has a E dash, which is a very viable mobility, so she kind of have that self peel. She has abilities to kind of chase people or kind of finish off people with her Q. I think especially with the durability changes where a lot more people are durable in general, I think that indirectly buffs Kira too, because Kira likes to be in your face and ult, but if you can kill her really fast, then it doesn't really matter if she can get that damage off, right? But with the durability changes, she's going to find herself being able to live a lot longer and being able to do more damage in the ult, just being able to stay alive longer. So I think because of stuff like that, she's actually doing a lot better, and her damage is actually really, I'm not sure like her the damage on her wasn't really changed. It's just, I think, in terms of where this kind of meta is at with the durability change, I think she's actually just thriving a lot more. So I think she's just really, really good right now. Next up is Bellica. She's a tier 3 pick, neither like super great, neither super bad. She can be flexed into support as well along with the mid lane, but I don't think she's like the best support or the best mid laner, but she's definitely not bad at all in the right hand, so she's a kind of solid tier 3 pick. Next up is not bad. She's a tier 2 pick. He's definitely someone that I think some people kind of sleep on for a bit. She's actually a very good support in my opinion, and especially with the durability changes, he's doing a lot better because if people are more durable and not dying as fast, and his heals are a lot more better as a result. And I think the thing with Notbash is, I think once you figure out the ins and outs, because Notbash has a simple kit, but the way you position, the way you kind of like play that laning phase, I think is a little bit more of a skill ceiling than people realize. And once people do figure that out, I think Notbash is seriously a super strong support. Like even someone that can go toe to toe with the Deku Muriel. But I think that's something that people just need more time with, or realize that Notbash is actually a little underrated, in my opinion, of course. Next up is Face. She's kind of tier 3 pick. She's not bad. Like, she's sort of the same problem as the Sparrow in the sense that she's very reliant on hyping enabling a hero, and there's no one on your team that's actually good enough for you to hyper enable and they carry the team fights. His Face doesn't feel as great. Like Notbash healing, you're always gonna get that healing fire off, the mirror shields, the Deku stuns, but you'll mostly get the fire out of Phase if your teammate's doing good, right? But in the solo queue environment, you may not always get a teammate that's doing good enough that Phase feels great to play with that person. So Phase is holding the tier 3 for now. Rampage, no questions about. He's always been a staple tier 1 kind of tank in the jungle. When he's a tier 3 pick. I put him tier 3 because I think he has potential to be a really strong ADC. He's definitely that mid to late game ADC that can really like burst down squishies. I think the main reason why he sold in the tier 3 is because with just how many tanks are running around, and Revenant is actually very bad with dealing tanks because it doesn't have that consistent damage as a Kira and more like a jungle has. So because of that, Revenant won't always be the best pick to go into team comps. Obviously, if they don't have as many big boy kind of tanks, I think Remnant's a better pick. But if they have a lot really hot solid kind of frontliners, then Remnant's not going to be the greatest pick into that. Victor tier 2 pick, he's honestly like very, very good because he's like the only heroes that can be flexed into 3 different roles really, really well from my knowledge, and that is like the jungle, the offlane, and support. Like he actually does really great in those 3 roles. I think the only reason why I'm not putting T1 is because one, he has a higher skill ceiling with his hooks and being able to know how to like play him, especially like the train powers in the offlane and how to set up your ganks in the jungle. But also, I think he still sort of gets outshined by other heroes in those 3 respective roles. But he definitely, for the fact that he's be able to play in 3 different roles really well, makes him a very solid T2 pick. Shinbi's in the T2 pick. She's always been kind of a good stapler offlaner that can scale. She's one of the few offlaners that you play her to really scale up very well. So like Sevarog is a very amazing scaler, and so is Shinbi too. Not as amazing because Sevarog is just known to be the best scaler, but Shinbi actually can really outscale most of her matchups. Like sometimes you see Shinbi being played to Sevarog because she's one of the few offlaners that can lane against the Sevarog well and match his split pushing power because she has very good wave clear and very good scaling to go along with it. So she's always going to be a very solid T2 pair, just being able to really split push very effectively well and just kind of outscale her way to victory. And last but not least is Faye, and she's going to be a T3 pick right here. She's definitely not bad at all. Like she has one of the most powerful ultimates as a mage. The only thing is it's very easy to counter by you can just blink away or use dash ability. So like if you have a fast enough reaction, Gideon E or Fame Out on B can get you out of the fly trap before it pulls you in. Or the fact that there's a lot of cleanse items where you just cleanse her ultimate and that makes her feel bad. So it can be, and against really good enemy teams, it can be hard to feel like you can get good consistent fire out ultimate, but also for the fact that she's someone that can be really easy to punch early game. Like I see a lot of times, well, myself included, as an offlane, if I'm playing like a Crunch or a Fame Mao, I literally would just go roam to mid and try to kill the enemy Faye because she's that easy to gank, and that's kind of like what's really keeping her down, along with her ultimate being easier to counter compared to like the other ultimates in the game. But yeah, that's about it. That's about my list on the tier list for version 0.8. Again, this is just my opinion at the end of the day, so don't take this with a little grain of salt. But this is kind of like my best effort in trying to give you guys an unbiased, kind of more competitive kind of viewpoint on what heroes are doing really good in this meta, what other heroes are not doing so great in this meta. So if you're looking to up your solo queue kind of game, and you want to know exactly who's doing really good in this meta, then definitely try out the T1, T2 heroes. You can never go wrong with them. But obviously, you can make any hero work. It's just some heroes may have to work harder than others, and that's why certain heroes like T1, T2 are really solid, because you don't have to play them as intensely hard as compared to the Tier 3 and Tier 4 picks. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to share your opinions and your comments on my tier list, and we can have some good old discussion. And just as a quick side note, when this video goes up on a Saturday morning, it's gonna be before the PCC, and we're having the finals for the tournament. So we get to see some of the top Predecessor esports teams go at each other, and yours truly will actually be on the desk analyzing like draft and like what's going on with the game and whatnot. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun, and I hope you guys will also be there and have fun watching me kind of give my inputs and whatnot. But thank you as always for all the amazing support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.